Chinook salmon find a safe haven in the Elwha River in Olympic National Park in Washington State. These salmon live in the ocean, but come to the Elwha River to breed and spawn more salmon. But something changed this. Washington State was on the edge of technology when they decided to construct a hydroelectric dam in 1910. The first dam began operating in 1882, and the Elwha Dam was finished in 1913, just 31 years after the first. This dam created loads of power for the surrounding areas, but there was a problem. The dam was blocking sediment from coming downstream, and more importantly, blocking the salmon from going upstream. The salmon's population began to rapidly decline as their spawning grounds were now blocked off. Nearly 100 years later, after decades of backlash and protesting, the dam was destroyed in 2012. But the damage had already been done. Today, luckily salmon rates have started to recover, but something else was badly affected by the salmon decrease.
The mother has been carrying the corpse of her calf for more than a week. As Tom Walsh explains, they may believe the mother is going through a deep grieving process.
It's a sad, sad story of grief and loss. For the past week, a mother orca known as J35 has been carrying around her dead calf off the coast of Washington, a behavior that, although shocking, is, according to one expert, not uncommon.
This orca was carrying its dead calf after a miscarriage, something 70% of female orcas have to deal with. Orcas' numbers have been down significantly, and there's no question why. Orcas' main source of food is the Chinook salmon, and if the salmon cannot reproduce, the orcas will not survive. Upstream on the Elwha River, animals like bears were starting to see a decline, forest health was decreasing, and the local tribe struggled for food. After the destruction of the Elwha Dam, orcas, bears, and the forest all have started to bounce back, all thanks to the recovery of the salmon. The Chinook salmon are a keystone species. A keystone species is defined as a species on which other species in that ecosystem largely depend, such that if they were removed, the ecosystem would change drastically. Keystone species are vital to their environment, and my professor explained them like this. Let's say you drive down a highway from New York to Texas. Every 10 minutes, one piece of your car flies off. Maybe a nut or bolt here or there, or a fan wouldn't make a difference to whether or not you would make it there. But let's say one of those pieces is your steering wheel, or an axle. A keystone species is your steering wheel because it's important to the entire ecosystem, or in this instance, the vehicle. The Chinook salmon are a keystone species in this area because they feed the orcas, they feed the birds, the bears, and other animals upstream, and their dead carcasses provide nutrients for the forest. So, anyways, let's talk about Raya and the Last Dragon.
Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Raya and the Last Dragon is an interesting movie because it honestly isn't that new of a story, but it does super well besides one annoying character.
Oh, wait till you see my backstroke. I'm a wicked when I hit that liquid. I got water skills that kill. I slaughter when I hit the water.
I may or may not be talking about it being heavily influenced by Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the only reason I'm saying may or may not is because Twitter forced Lindsay Ellis off the platform for making that comparison for being racist, even though they didn't understand the context or the literal parallels others have seen, and the tweet isn't racist if you read it at all. Seriously, Twitter, chill the fuck out for like 10 minutes and go after some actual racist and harmful people like Tucker Carlson. Anyways, Raya and the Last Airbender doesn't do anything in particular that is special, but it has good characters, minus one, and a good story, besides it not being original. The story goes like this. The dragons and the humans used to live in harmony.
But that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
The Droon came and they turned everything they touched into stone. The dragons fought off the Droon until only one dragon remained, where they put their energy into a gem that forced the Droon away. The dragons disappeared, the humans fought for the gem, splitting into 5 nations where Raya's village got the gem and protect it to this day. Her nation thrives with more than enough food while the rest struggle to get by. The king invites the nations to come and end the fighting and become Kumandra once again. They of course fight for the gem, break it, and the Druun returns. Raya's father gets turned into stone, and Raya now needs to search for the last dragon and bring her back to life to defeat the Druun. Raya finds Sisu, they get the pieces, they almost put it back together, they fight, stuff happens, classic Avatar stuff. And then, in the end, Sisu gets killed and the water starts to leave the area as the final dragon dies. The pieces are put back together as the main characters get devoured by the Druun, and then through the power of friendship and love, they save the world and the dragons return, which brings peace, happiness, and balance. So, Raya and the Last Dragon is a fine enough movie. The monkeys and baby are funny, the boat captain slash chef slash badass is super funny. They did a great job hiring Asian voice actors rather than whitewashing this. Sisu is pretty annoying and really seems childish, but I can look past that. What I want to talk about is the environmentalism in Raya and the Last Dragon. So Disney has never been the greatest company when it comes to wokeness and social issues, as it took until Hercules to get the first named black characters. And today, when we look at Disney trying to wokeify their old Disney movies, they don't try to fix criticisms of divine right or try and address their past mistakes of racism. They ignore it and make it more feminist because they don't want us to look at old Walt poorly. He's an American man who wouldn't hurt a fly. And they sure as hell don't want you to stop buying their cheap plastic crap because it's Disney. They have multiple theme parks on different continents and are the largest media conglomerate in the world. Disney is only woke to appeal to consumers to adjust to the changing market as boomers are starting to become old and social issues they created are starting to become important rather than sweeping it under the rug and hoping for the good old days of the totally not racist 50s, 60s, and 70s. Disney has started to realize that they must follow the times, so they need to get the older generations to watch Nostalgia remake and show their kids, as well as getting the new generation to enjoy the wokeness of Disney. But the problem is the wokeness of Disney is no more woke than a white person yelling at a white person to listen to people of color before tweeting about Asian Americans. Yes, I'm back on the topic. You dumbasses on Twitter better be ready to throw them hands because I'm coming. Disney's woke track record has not been that great, and it's only woke for woke's sake. So imagine my surprise when they had a woke agenda regarding the environment in Raya and the Last Dragon that wasn't asked for. Well, sort of. So, like I was talking about earlier, keystone species are the most important parts of your environment. Other examples besides the salmon are wolves. People seem to love their Bambis in the backyard, but deer feast off of tree saplings. If there are no wolves to scare the deer and keep their population in check, the difficulty of growing young trees increases greatly. Also, introducing more wolves in the wild actually help life expectancy because people die more often from running into deers than dying from wolves, like at all. But wolves are scary and farmers hate them because they eat sheep and cattle, so we ostracize wolves and protect the deer. Wolves are a keystone species because the health of the forest is dependent on them killing deer to protect saplings, as well as deer's rotting corpse providing nutrients. There are other keystone species, but I don't want to bore you with more rambling about things like my hatred for deer. So, keystone species relates to Raya and the Last Dragon because of this part right here. So Sisu is the last dragon, and when she's killed, the water, which is the only natural protection from the Druun besides the gem, is receding from the area. The dragons brought prosperity and peace to the area 500 years ago, and with Sisu, that all went away, and the water was leaving the area. The dragons are a keystone species in this world. They are the reason for the environment thriving, and Sisu dying is what causes the collapse. So, obviously, keystone species don't work like this. When the dam was added to the Elwha River, the entire forest didn't just die off because the salmon disappeared. the number of animals were declining, and maybe centuries down the road we would have seen the collapse of the environment, and even more recently maybe the extinction of orcas, but it didn't happen right away. Keystone species provide so much for the area we do not realize sometimes until after the fact, and some of those events become irreversible. Sisu dying could have been one of those irreversible events that caused the downfall of humans in that universe. Of course, it's a Disney movie and everything was fine and dragons returned, but if it wasn't a Disney movie and it was real life, things like this could have happened. We could have seen the collapse of humans as we know it. So I say it's somewhat of an environmental message because this isn't really the story or the message they attempted to convey, but it worked. Disney wasn't trying to talk about sustainability and climate change. They just wanted a cute story, and I don't blame them. Well, I mean, I sort of do because they have the resources to make real change, but just don't, but that's another topic. Keystone species aren't this drastic impact like Raya and the Last Dragon, but they're just as important. Could Disney have done more with this side of the story? Yes. I think addressing the importance of the dragons as less of protectors of the humans and more of the single most important species in their environment, and they should have protected them, would have been great. But Disney's woke track record has proven that wouldn't happen. So in the end, I'm somewhat happy with what happened here. I liked that this unintentional, or possibly intentional, but slightly referenced issue was brought to the big screen. I hope this is a sign of things to come because we're causing the collapse of thousands, if not millions, of ecosystems, and spreading awareness on these issues and causing real change is the only way we're going to be able to help the world fight against climate change, a growing population, increased reliance on plastic, and so many other countless issues. I'd really like it if you guys would comment below an important issue or cause surrounding the environment, because there are so many issues people have never heard of, and I would love to hear other issues I have never heard of. It takes all of us to make a change, and Disney hopefully starts to realize the massive impact they could make if they really cared, rather than having their pockets being the driving factor. Thank you guys for watching. This is something that is very important, not just for the world, but for me. I saw this message hidden in the movie, and I would love to hear whether or not you noticed this, other issues in the movie, or if I was just wrong. Movie or video suggestions are always appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next one.